Peace, world. Hey, I just had to jump on in here and get this out of the way. It's a holiday, for some. Maybe it's not for others. But it's Father's Day. And, I had the chance to check out the finale of The Chi. And I had to get in here and get it over with before I get on about my day. I don't know how much time I have to get into everything, but I'm gonna try to talk through a couple of notes that I took, that I jotted down as I was watching the show. First of all, let me make sure these volumes are even right. Okay, but yeah, first of all, man, huge shout out to the show's writer. The name of this one was the Scorpion and the Frog. And it looks like it was written by Ayanna Floyd Davis. And she brought together a lot of what I was looking at as being somewhat messy. I know a lot of people may not have that opinion. That's cool. A lot of people might watch the show and don't question anything, don't have any issues with anything, and it's phenomenal. That's not quite my view. But I'm glad that I stuck around. I think I raised some very valid points with each week, and damn near scene to scene, we're watching these brothers struggle. In particular, Brandon and Ronnie. We're watching these, even Emmett, Kevin too. But we're watching all of these characters who struggle and take losses and L's. Scene to scene to scene to scene, and I thought it was a big ask to expect people to kind of stick around when we don't have much on the show to really root for, and we don't, like I've mentioned about some of the other shows that we watched, in particular something like Power with Ghost. I mean, it was a point on the show where we thought Ghost was balling, or we thought he was, whatever, and we tuned in because we wanted to see him, resolve problems and hustle and grind and all of that stuff. And he was somebody that, you wanted to be like. But with these situations, with a lot of these characters on here, it's just cats that were struggling. And obviously I made it to this point, so I'm good with it. But I was wondering, what's the payoff in all of this? So also shout out to the director, Jet Wilkinson, I believe is their name. I don't know if that's a male or female. But yeah, like I said, man, a big, huge applause to Ayanna Floyd Davis. I think that's the name that I figured out, that I pulled off of the episode as being the writer for this particular one. I'm looking at IMDb. I don't even know if they have a synopsis on this particular episode. They don't. What's new? But they don't have much on here for anything. But anyway, man, I've been talking about the show because in general I like the show. I want to see it do well. I did mention on a couple of recaps ago that it was renewed for a third season. By now, if you've been watching the show, I presume that you understand that Jason Mitchell will not be returning. And actually, we saw some stuff in this show where they already have an out, pretty much. Well, not really. Now that I think about it. The relationship between Brandon and Jerica is a wrap. But we still got to see what goes on, because now Brandon is going to be an informant for Detective Toussaint. So I guess he is still a pretty important character, but he may not be around. I'm trying to figure out why I want to make sure this thing is even, and actually it might not be now that I look at it. I just want to make sure this thing is recording, or that I'm streaming. And it doesn't have me on here. How is that working? Maybe I'm on the right track now. Apologize. I'm trying not to do this for no. There we go. Alright. So it is working. I was on another link and it wasn't saying anything, so I was a little bit confused. Let me just see if the chat is working. Sometimes episode to episode or stream to stream, some things don't come through, and some functions don't make it through. So I wanted to make sure in case anybody stepped in that it was good. So now let me get back to it. I was trying to keep it to like 10 notes or 10 thoughts on the show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. I got a lot. Damn. So I don't know how long I can rock with this, but I'll try to get into what I can get into. I thought the intro was dope. With the Umi Says from Mos Def, and kind of sets a whole different vibe on this episode altogether in terms of the presentation. The writing was phenomenal. They set the tone right. I don't believe there was like one loose end for me to complain about, for me to yap about. Just a phenomenal job. And the outro with Someday We'll All Be Free by Donny Hathaway, who I believe is from Chicago. Like I said, man, I can't give the show in this episode enough praise. Shout out to my man Jeffrey Finney from up in Flint, Michigan, one of my partners with some of the boxing stuff that I do. Shout out to him for putting the out there on Facebook earlier today, saying that this was by far the best episode of The Chi. At him or whatever he said, but it really had my interest piqued, and I went on. As soon as I wrapped up some other business, I was like, let me get it in real quick. But I think the theme here for the show itself and for this episode is kind of, now they're talking about the frog and the scorpion and the frog. In my opinion, some of this is like the caterpillar and the butterfly. This show has really done a complete 180. So many things are now what they weren't just a couple episodes ago. Getting into first, the show opens up with Maisha, one of the obvious butterflies. And this is kind of something that I struggle with, the consistency on the show at times, but that's just my opinion. But she was looking so poor and, was missing school, was bogged down with all the kids at home from her mom. And, she was a little dusty looking, hair undone. We thought she might have been a little stupid. And then all in like 2 or 3 episodes, she's talking about businesses. She knows about the best schools in the area. She purchased this yearbook from Amazon to give to Kevin, so he could reconsider going to Northside Academy or whatever that school is called. That's not who she was earlier in this season. That's just my observation. I'm sorry, I'm tuning into this stuff. I'm picking up on certain things, but I like the change though. She's a beautiful butterfly. To finish off that analogy, but I thought it was dope. She encourages Kevin, and she mentioned something about her going to Fisk or some other school for business and whatnot. But here she takes a moment, even though Kev had disrespected her, made fun of her, embarrassed her to his friends, and kind of said that he didn't have this relationship with her, or he didn't have any feelings for her. He was just showing pity, and she overhears that. She comes back and purchases this yearbook for him so he can get a better idea of what's going on over at the school. I want to show you my Cubs t-shirt real quick, just for some love. But I don't like the way that looks. Anyway, I done messed it up. But oh, there we go. But she says, you're a special brother. Although you clown me and I think you're a clown, she gives him a yearbook and says, you know what, you can go out here and do something special with your life, and smarten up, and kind of reiterating what Brandon is saying, that you don't have to stay in the crowd. Like, you can go do your own thing and be great, and you should, and you would be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't live up to your potential and whatnot. So I thought that was a dope moment. The next note that I had was Ronnie finally talks. I've been on this brother for like a season and a half now and trying to watch his character and he can't get out 5 to 8 words to explain what the hell is wrong with him, what's going on with him. We did learn about his post-traumatic stress or PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder situation. We know he had a rough upbringing with his his home life and everything. So we understood all of that, but some of us wanted this brother to stand up and make people understand what the hell is wrong with him and why he looks like the screw up that he's looked like, for like 18 episodes now. And he finally opens up to Jada, which he ruined that situation. But he let her know why. Shantae, I believe, is the mother of Jason's daughter, his son that passed away, which really isn't his biological son. But that was the only person that he says that, was giving him a reason to live. And, he messed up the date that he was getting ready to go on with Jada a couple episodes ago. And he said, listen to me real quick, man. I'm trying here. And he goes on and says that, I was all excited to come check you out and to go do our thing. He was probably going to get some that night. Everything was going in the right direction. And then he went into the corner store and ruined everything by drinking again. And so he said, Shantae, I think is her name, brought the baby over. She was complaining about me and affected my confidence and my esteem and whatnot. And he was like, I ruined it. Can you give me a second chance? Don't turn your back on me the way that everybody else has. And so it was good to see this brother finally, like I said, express, because he's not a likable dude based on his past and what we know anyway. But I've tried to rock with this brother, played by Intari Guma Mbaho Mwan. So yeah, I thought that was pretty dope to get that in there and kind of further develop his character. The next note that I had, we didn't know where Detective Toussaint was going after the last episode closed out with her needing to, having the one-on-one in the sergeant's office. Actually, Cruz was there too. But they informed her that her son had been attacked in the juvenile detention center and whatnot. And that was obviously something, an act that was initiated by the 63rd Street mob, or, at the direction of Duda, Mr. Perry. We didn't know how she was going to respond to that. But she punches back. She comes out fighting. And she arrests Brandon in that opening sequence as Umi pays. I believe that's how that song kind of wraps up. And she shows up with her hair down, her dreads kind of down, showing you that she's kind of been through hell. And, she's not playing right now. She's this act of aggression towards her, harming her child, has taken it to a point of no return, basically. So she shows up at the taco truck, and they arrest Brandon, and that kind of sets the tone for where she's coming from. And again, like I said, the show is evolving. It was what it was last year, but now we're kind of developing into this full-blown investigation into the 63rd Street mob and the hierarchy of that, the upper hierarchy of that. We're not even dealing with the streets. But with Brandon being arrested, Omar Perry rescues him and reassures Brandon at the police station that we got your back and I still believe in you. Follow along. I know you didn't sign up for all of this, but don't worry, I got you, and you're still better off with me than you were out here struggling. Was basically his message to Brandon, who's kind of falling apart a little bit, but he didn't say too much at that point. He hadn't said too much. And again, like I said, this thing has kind of changed. This relationship has kind of changed because when Mr. Perry first got involved with Brandon, from the brother that was locked up in prison that Duda went to go see, it was almost like they were gonna they referred to Brandon as a fish, and it looked like the play was, we're gonna give we're going to put all this money into him and make him and build him up to look like this figure, and then we're going to let the detective take him down, and she'll get what she needs from that arrest, and then we'll move on, business as usual. But Perry doesn't really handle the situation like that. Oh, and shout out to that brother. I've seen him in stuff throughout the years, and I was looking up something on him the other day and just realized Curtis Cook is his name. Curtis Cook is actually from here in Dayton, Ohio, where I'm located, my hometown, I guess at this point. So shout out to that brother for doing what he's doing. So yeah, it seems like now he's a necessary liability / asset or something. Like they need him. He's an important part of what they have going on in the big scheme of things. Although we really don't kind of know what they're using him for. He has security on him, a security detail on him 24/7. That second food truck that we never see. That we still haven't seen is out there doing business, so we kind of don't know the details on that, but I digress. Jerica in this situation, Jerica meets Brandon at the police station, and she's aware of what's going on, and it's revealed to her who and what Duda is and what situation Brandon is up against, and again she's reminded why he's been a screw up. I'll come back to that one. But now she knows who Duda is and kind of, what Brandon is really up against. And now she knows that he's really out of his... This is above him. This situation is something bigger than him that he really can't figure out in all likelihood. So our other leading man in this situation, Emmett, we see some things going on with him. He takes his mom to go see the apartment. Where he's finally, it took him 9 shows to have somewhere to live, which they really haven't covered that since he was sleeping on the L when he got assaulted by Tiff's people, I believe. But they really that's another detail that we don't know where this brother has been sleeping the last 9 episodes. He's in his role as the manager at Sonny's. His father Darnell comes in and sees him. And they have this is a good confrontation. It's a net positive at the end of this meeting between father and son. And then Darnell knows he can't win this debate or this discussion outright because he has the past that he has. But he's still trying, and he's communicating. He's trying to communicate and put some structure in Emmett's life. And he's one of the positive forces on the show. But he is a situation with telling his son, hey, you know what? I just got in your ass a little bit. But congratulations, man to man, congratulations, and I'm proud of you. I think add that parenthetically, I'm proud of you. And keep doing what you're doing. Back to Brandon. Brandon is out and about once he's freed out of jail. He's getting ready to get set up on his route for the food truck, Coogie's Taco Truck, I believe it's called. And this is the first time that he sees Ronnie since Ronnie has been released, from jail. Since he got out, since he beat the case. If you like how that was all wrapped up. But again, I digress. Ronnie is out on the street and has been out on the street, and that was one of my issues, was like, this man is out there, but you don't even go and confront him in any way. And even though we know Brandon is not built like that, I still had some expectations that he would have went and done something. We know they already had their altercation before. I think they almost came to blows or some shoving and whatnot, but it's just kind of been this thing that was lingering out there. This meetup that kind of needed to happen for this thing to move forward. But anyway, Brandon encounters Ronnie out doing some handiwork in the community, kind of how Ronnie has been earning money. And we have a good moment. I can't really be too critical of how this was handled. I think Brandon's at a low enough situation, and it's enough uncertainty in his life that he goes over and confronts Ronnie. They had this big build up with the music, and he's pissed off. It'd be very understandable if he went and did something stupid, although he no longer had the pistol that he had. So what was he gonna do? And so he gets over to him, and they have this really heartfelt exchange. And in terms of looking at the community, and I guess one killing isn't gonna be resolved by another killing. Like, where do these two guys go with this situation? I mean, they reside in the same neighborhood. They're bound to cross paths. From time to time. We haven't put this situation behind us. At this point, there's no real way. You can't go and Brandon can't go out and handle this in terms of killing him at this point, and we're as far down the road as we are. So I thought this was handled well, again, by the writer, Ayanna Floyd Davis. We see some of the best acting right here in this exchange with these two brothers crying. And, Brandon basically says, I get it, man. I understand I understand the whole situation. I understand what we face as a people. I understand what we face as brothers in this matter. The right answer and what I would like to see happen to you to have some closure to my brother's situation, it just makes no sense for me to even carry that. And he basically says, we'll move on from this. I don't think he actually said the word forgiveness, but the conclusion of that conversation was pretty much like, hey, we faced each other. I understand what happened, although it pains me to this day. And, we got to go on. And that's life. That's a part of life. So I thought that was handled extremely well. And I don't know how realistic that is in some ways, but I'm not mad that that's the way that they did it. I'm gonna be honest. Duda has a meeting with Reg and Jake at one of his restaurants, and this was kind of something that was hanging over this whole episode. Was we know the other boss came and saw Duda and said that Reg had to fall. Basically, Reg had done enough reckless things out there in the streets that it had to be. The books had to be squared. They had to. It had to be we're trying to avoid retaliation and getting into a full-blown war between different factions. We need him. We need his life. So I thought Duda was going to do it himself. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Duda just says, look, I want to take Jake under my wing, get him a position here at the restaurant, give him some duties and some responsibilities, and I need to keep him away from the streets because the organization needs people for tomorrow, and he believes that he's seen enough in Jake that Jake could be an interesting piece down the road if he's groomed properly, and if they keep him out of trouble. He's a guy that can maybe have a foot in both worlds, in the streets as well as on the business side. So the interesting thing here is that that Reg says, you want to do something more and upstanding for him. Like, I'm such a soldier out here, and I'm a mover and a shaker myself. You don't have a position for me that's away from the streets? I thought it was a real honest moment for him. And shows a different side of street guys that life is exhausting. You know what I mean? So I thought that was dope too. Like I said, man, this writer hit this thing out of the park with this episode on a lot of different levels. I got about 6 more points here. I'm gonna try to wrap this thing up. Where I'm at time. Okay. So then more Brandon. We have Kevin has been given some things to think about from Maisha and how he kind of scorned Maisha to a degree. But he goes to visit Brandon for for his weekly haircut. And Brandon continues again, the writing here, he says, he tells Kevin, not following the crowd ain't easy. He said, but if you want to be a man, it's part of it. And it's crazy here because this is the second time, maybe second or third, where Brandon, who struggles in his own situation, is giving some real sage advice to this young man. And it's kind of in these moments where we see Brandon at his best, when he's at least able to say, you don't want to do things the way that I've tried to do them. And I recognize something in you. So here's the best that I can give you of what I know, what to deal with. And like he told him the situation, man, I was trying to tell you about women. And a lot of older brothers need to say some of this stuff to young men sometimes. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, man. Don't just take my word. Go out and seek information and advice from a number of different sources, man. I ain't handling this stuff no better than, no better myself. But, yeah, I just really enjoyed this scene, man. He gives him the haircut. And, again, like I told you, from caterpillar to butterfly. This is a moment where Kev comes out of who we've known him to be the last several episodes. And he's now listening to himself and responding to the gifts that he has as a young man, as a thoughtful person, as the intelligence that he has, and kind of a chance to focus on on maximizing, realizing the best future possible for him. And he says, hey, it's time for me to quit wearing his hairstyle and to fit in. And I'm probably getting ready to go down this different path and going to get me together. Thanks for everything that you've been telling me, and I think I'm going to listen to everything that's been said, and I got a new path in life. It's interesting that we didn't see Keisha this episode, I don't believe. Then we move to Darnell goes and visits Jada. And when he showed back up, we knew that something was going on here. I thought the scene was handled really well, though. And you can see, he works himself in the door at her apartment. Jada hasn't had a man or no real love or affection in like 2 seasons now. She's tired. We've seen the signs of her struggling with loneliness. And I love that they really had this scene and that they spoke on this in subsequent scenes with Jada and why my screen freeze? With Jada and Emmett. And it's such a misunderstanding. It's such a the relationship between black men and black women can be so frayed at times. And I just thought this was the best of what the Chi does. But anyway, you see that my man takes the earpiece out, which reminds me of Spice Adams with the character that he does. But he takes the earpiece out as they're drinking the wine, and that brother is getting ready to make a move. And then he goes into playing on the fact that they had a great sexual relationship when they were doing their thing, and it goes there. Maybe it was good writing that Emmett walked in, although he hadn't had a key the whole season. But maybe he did get it. Maybe she gave him a key after Jada told Emmett about the situation with Ronnie. I could be wrong there. Maybe I'm wrong. But I guess for Jada to get that itch scratched in some regards, I wanted the situation to go on and play out. And the crazy thing here is the parallel that Emmett and Tiff had their reunion, in the same manner back in, several episodes ago. And now here we have, the older people, the parents in Darnell and Jada getting ready to have the same reunion that's ill-advised. Darnell is married. Currently, he has the kids that he has, but Jada is looking for love. She's looking for attention and affection and intimacy, and so she almost succumbed in that moment. moving on, Jerica. Like I said, this situation with Jerica and Brandon, their relationship is one less detail that needs to be worked out. And whatever they plan to do with Jason's character, with whatever they choose, however they choose to move forward with Brandon. I'm almost to the point of the opinion now, seeing how this episode concluded, that maybe it might not be such a bad idea to just replace Jason Mitchell with a new actor. He doesn't have to be in a relationship with Jada moving forward, and he can be, he can go ahead and be what he needs to be in the role of, the informant and handling this investigation. How do you get back into the organization going into next year? You'd have to waste a lot of episodes to turn another dude and flip another dude to play the role that has been revealed for what Brandon is going to be in the investigation. So I'm of the opinion, my wife, she wasn't down with it. We know it didn't work it hasn't worked in the past, but with the right character, the right actor, I think we could give it a chance. But again, to have to build up another character to get into the organization, to get the trust of the organization, and to build all of that could take 6 or 7 episodes to make that happen. But anyway, Jerica and Jason get into this argument, and they go down the road of different, they just have different paths. And despite the fact that they've tried to love each other, they've tried to work through the challenges, and they've done what they've done, they're just at different points in their lives. And like I said, it's been a difficult ask for Waif and the writers and directors for us to tune in and follow along with some of these stories. And it's like, in the struggles of these men, and Jerica is just like, I'm done with this. Like, she doesn't have the same tolerance that we do. So she's out. She gives the ring back. They have one of the best scenes in the last 20 episodes. Some of the best acting, some of the best writing. This was phenomenal to me. I only have 3 more points, and then I'm going to get on out of here. 3 more points left. Papa, Kev, and Jake, I've told you, I've struggled with how the kids fit into this situation. If we think back to The Wire, they mainly addressed their kids in one season. And they told the stories that they wanted to tell, all of the stories that surround the kids. They did all of that in one season. Here, with the Shy starting with these kids, and then sometimes, in my opinion, getting in the way of some of the bigger stories, it's put a lot on them to juggle. And I think sometimes it's questioned, it's compromised the integrity of the script and the ability for the show to stay on point when you're dealing with all of these different storylines. But they haven't done a horrible job at it. It's just challenging. But here, Papa, Kev, and Jake, we get the meaning or the origin of the episode, the title of the episode, The Scorpion and the Frog. And Papa just says, he points out, or Kev, Papa tells Jake, hey, we good with whatever you decide to do. We even good if you really like Maisha on a deeper level. We're good with that too, bro. And then he says, you got to go out here and do everything that you need to do for you. And then Kevin observes Jake, pushing some drugs, selling, and Papa says, well, you familiar with the story of the scorpion and the frog, and he mentions that the frog helps out the scorpion with crossing the creek or whatever it is. And then halfway across, the scorpion stabs and kills the frog. And the frog says, "Why'd you do that?" And he said, "Well, man, I am a scorpion. That's what I do." And this is an apropos, and I've heard that story before for some other stuff. I won't go into that here. But that's where we get the name of this episode, was that story right here. Kevin tells this to this story to obviously he tells this story to Brandon during his haircut, because Brandon mentions it later in the episode once he's back in the interview room with Detective Toussaint. So Ronnie, we finally sees a breakthrough for this brother. We finally have the payoff for all these weeks we've been following Ronnie and everything that he's taken us through. And him and Jada hit the road to go down to Arkansas to go to this party that Shantae, I hate that I don't know what her name is, or if that is her name. But they go down there and they have some warm moments together on the way down. They go to this party and it's all this happiness, is family, is love being displayed, is joy. And of course, Ronnie is just, it's too much for him. So he says he needs the keys to the car. And Tracy, what's her name? Ty Davis, the lovely Ty Davis. But Tracy says, I love that Tracy confronted him and said, you know what? If you come back drunk, it's a wrap for us all together. I'm not being no friend, no nothing. We parting ways forever. And we didn't, again, great writing. I love how they handled this. I didn't know what he was going to do. It didn't really seem like he go and get drunk. He could have just had some beverages there to get together. But he goes and sees his father. And they have a phenomenal conversation here on Father's Day. I mean, you know, how it couldn't be any more apropos of what they said to each other. And Ronnie continues to open up, and he continues to explain what's going on in his heart, what's going on in his mind. And briefly, you know, I'm able to, myself as a viewer and a fan of the show, I'm able to kind of move past the fact that he killed this young boy, that he killed Coogie, and is out on the streets free, living his life. You know, I was able to kind of like reconcile all of this stuff and have some empathy towards him. And, you know, the dialogue that he had with Brandon earlier, and then hear him telling his father, you know, man, I've been out of place. I haven't fit in anywhere. I've been going through it, you know, and it all started with you and the absence of you. And so, like I said, man, I keep looking at her name, Ayanna Floyd Davis, this weekend's hero. She nailed this. I thought it was beautiful, man. You know, as a person that would like to have, you know, certain conversations, you know, with family members of my own, as we all are. I just thought this was a great scene, man. I really respected this episode. Was truly phenomenal. So I hope if anybody made it this far, I hope we can build and chop it up in the comments. You know, get your thoughts on this. If not, you know, then I would have had this conversation in my car on the way to work tomorrow. So it's really not a waste of my time. It's what I do. And the father, you know, says, look, they use the car as a metaphor. You know, the father said, I help you get this car back to running how it was from the factory. In other words, I can help us get our relationship. And in his health and his age, you know, they don't know how much time they even have. But he says, you know, we can fix this thing. We can try to make it right. We can definitely fix it, enhance the chances of fixing it by working together. I'm down to do it. If you're willing to work with me and hear me out and put in the work with me, we can turn this thing around. So I thought that was just so meaningful and symbolic and whatnot. And like I said, it's the best of what the Chi tried to do. Lastly, the bill comes due for Emmett on having Reg put in this work. You know, with the track coach who had the relationship with Keisha and was, you know, seeing the young girls and whatnot. And Reg and Big Mike are in Sonny's ordering up enough food for an army. And again, here Emmett, you know, who's who finds an answer to everything, he's like, man, I can't do this, bro. And really, he didn't ask them to do what they did specifically. He just said send a message. And like I said on the last recap, I really didn't think that the payback or the visit to the track coach was going to be what it was. But they handled that really simply. But all while they're in the store in Sonny's ordering this food and going through this whole exercise and knowing where the time was on the show that we were ending the show, I automatically started thinking about Omar in that corner store when what's his name, Kiwan, damn, I can't think of the little kid's name from The Wire. But all along I'm thinking it's getting ready to go down for Reg. And they go out there, him and Big Mike go out to make it to the G-Wagon. We hear a motorcycle in the background, and the whole old dog situation and Menace, all of the situations that we've seen in black film and whatnot. And Reg stops to look at the girls on the back of these bikes, and of course it's a hit, and he gets sprayed up. He suffers a shot in the chest area and goes down. We see the cops go pick up, or DFCS or whatever it's called, go and pick up Jake. That's the cliffhanger for this year. Barton Fitzpatrick, who plays Reg, and is one of the favorites on the show. I'm guessing he's gonna be back. If I had to guess, if I had to put money on it, I would think and maybe that's the way. Maybe he can be flipped in place of Brandon. Maybe that's how it goes next year. It doesn't work out for him. It doesn't work out for Brandon being the informer, and maybe Reg survives, because I don't believe Duda was involved with the hit. I'm thinking the other dude, the other boss, had it taken care of because he wasn't seeing the urgency that the situation required. So that's the cliffhanger, man, is whether or not Reg will be back, and how the show closes with a second meeting with Toussaint and Brandon. Brandon feels that he has to cooperate. He's kind of motivated to cooperate. He doesn't have many answers, and he doesn't want to continue being a part, involuntarily being a part of the 63rd Street mob. So, and with the bodies that are on the gun that was found in his taco truck, taking the lawyer from the representation from Duda only further puts him under his foot. So they show him in the van meeting with him in the van observing the hospital that's going to be erected on that location where they're doing the ribbon cutting. And like I said, the show has fully transformed at this point and lays the groundwork, for whatever it becomes next year. Who knew that this was going down this path? And then they bring in, like I said, the phenomenal outro, sequence with Donny Hathaway and Someday We'll All Be Free. It's a beautiful song anyway. And like I said, what's more Chicago than Donny Hathaway? That's really about it. What's my time here? 46 minutes. Hey, I wish I could do it in 6 or 7, 8 minutes. But it's just difficult, man. And like I said, I was so proud of the show and what how it was almost like watching the Toronto Raptors, man. If you looked at the postseason and how the Raptors got better and better every round, and then became the Giant Killers and the way that they put down the Golden State Warriors. So shout out to them, man. Shout out, like I said, to Lena Waithe. And this is why, I was critical early. I asked some questions and said some things and was harsh on the show, but I tuned in week to week. In contrast, Power comes back maybe late August, I believe. I'm out on Power. I may tune in as a fan here and there, but it's not must watch for me at this point. It's just not. So I'm gonna be out on that one. I won't be doing any recaps on that one. I wish the show well though. But like I said right here, man, great job. Way to wrap this thing up. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.